how do you balance sort of innovation with these regulated environments where there's just so many requirements to succeed and be high performing?
One way we are trying to drive that innovation in our team is for our crew domain, we have implemented what you call Scaled Agile. So business and technology work together, and we have done Scaled Agile transformation. And as a part of the Scaled Agile, we plan our work in 10-week increments. But what we do as a part of the 10-week increments is we always have what we call the innovation sprint at the end of the 10 weeks.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Leadership Exchange podcast. My name is Tracy. You can follow me on X at LadyLead or on LinkedIn at Tracy S. Lee. And I'm joined by Priya here today. Welcome, Priya.
Hi, Tracy. So glad to be here on this podcast with you today.
Yes, I'm so excited. I think we met, it's maybe 2 years ago.
I think it's been about 2 years. Did we meet the first time at a chief event? Or no, you actually found me through the group and invited me to one of your events. That's where we met.
Yeah. So wild. Yeah. So I was thinking, it's been a year. No, it's been maybe a year and a half or something. But anyways, it's been a second. So I'm so excited to finally welcome you on. You do so much. Do you want to introduce yourself? Like, what do you do for work?
Awesome. Hi, everybody. I'm Priya Narayan. I am a managing director in technology. I work for an airline, Southwest Airlines. And I've been a leader in technology for, a long number of years. But I did start as an engineer. So I'm an engineer at heart. I grew up at Southwest Airlines from the engineering ranks, moved into a technical lead role before I moved into leadership. Currently, in my role at Southwest Airlines, I lead the technology functions that support our crew members, which is our pilots and flight attendants that serve you all on our planes.
Love that. I've been seeing Southwest in the news a lot lately about changes. And I think there was just one recently. I saw something about the seating changing.
Yeah. I mean, change is a constant in all our lives, whether it's technology and things changing because of the Gen AI revolution, or an airline, change is almost inevitable. And yes, there's been articles in Southwest. We are in our multi-year transformation journey as well. But that's what makes it exciting for us as leaders, leading people as well as leading technology transformation.
Yeah, as long as there's problems to solve, right? You're never bored, and there's always there's always something to do.
Yeah, there's always a fun problem to solve, and that's what makes life all the more entertaining. So it's all good. Change is good.
I totally agree with you. So it's really cool to hear you started as an engineer and sort of moved up the ranks of leadership. What inspired you to move into leadership?
I mean, I don't think it's one thing, Tracy, that inspired me to move into leadership. As I was an engineer, I found that I was more effective if I understood the big picture and I understood the business. For instance, a lot of my career has been in the airline industry, working for Southwest Airlines, actually understanding the business of how things flow behind the scenes and how different business processes worked just helped me be a better technical person supporting the business. And so what I did, even though my role was highly technical, is I used to mentor people, not just technical people, but also people like analysts and project managers on my team. And whether they were new to the airline industry or they were just new to their role, I really like mentoring people and just helping them connect the dots, understand the big picture. And I started doing more of that. I realized, hey, I'm mentoring several different types of people, not just technical talent, but also other roles on the team. I could easily build teams and actually be their leader because I really enjoyed mentoring and spending time with people. That's really what got me into leadership. I mean, at one point of time, all I was focused on is I have two children. We wanted to have two children, both my husband and I. I was so focused on that. I was not thinking about being a leader. Coincidentally, my first leadership opportunity came right after I gave birth to my youngest, who is now 13 years old. And Tracy, I'm sure you relate with that, with you having twins, right? Like two kids, and how old are they now?
They are almost two actually, but I mean, I just hearing like everything come at you. I don't ever think I talk to somebody where it's not the case where one thing happens and then another thing happens and life just comes at you. It just
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, for a while, really, like some people ask me questions like, when did you know you wanted to become a leader? I think that drive to help people, mentor people, help build the best teams was always there. And then again, my focus was on my personal life and having the two kids we always wanted to have. And then after that, I was like, oh yeah, an opportunity opened up, and I feel like I always felt like I could do this. So for me, it was not one thing, but I definitely wanted it all. I really wanted my family as I moved into leadership as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I do think a lot of engineers who are sort of more excited about mentoring people and helping people and have that sort of personality trait do go into more leadership positions, but then it's, you're already leading, right? And so do you feel like those leadership skills you just sort of came with them, you grew into them, or, how did you formally develop those skills? Or do you think people need to?
Yeah. I mean, I do think people need to invest. There are some things we are all naturally good at, and some things that get better by practice. For instance, in my case, I identify myself more on the introverted side. Again, I'm not going to be the first person in a party or any setting, large setting, to raise my hand saying, I'll pick up the mic. That's not me. So I'm more on the introverted side. What that meant for me, especially when I was a technical lead leading teams, is that I would not speak unless there was something really, really important that I had to state on behalf of my team or on behalf of the problem that was being discussed. So I often, at that time, I would get feedback from some of my leaders at that time saying, hey, you're really smart, Priya. However, you're very quiet, and we need to hear you more. I mean, while it was a little hard to take that feedback at that time, over time, I realized, hey, there's going to be different types of personalities around us. Some people need to actually hear my voice a lot more, not just when it's an important topic. They know they can count on me for the important topic to speak up. They just need to hear more verbal cues from me because I'm more of that quieter sort of personality, absorbing all the time. So again, I had to just practice. I mean, even now, I'm probably not the loudest person in the room or the most talkative person in the room, but I've actually listened a little bit to that feedback, and over time, I think I've adjusted my communication style. So again, to answer your question, Tracy, I do think like some things we're all naturally good at, like mentoring and helping other people, may be something we inherit as we grow up, but there are certain skills, especially communication, etc., that can be learned and practiced, and we can just get better every time we learn how to do it in different settings.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I think it does sometimes, sometimes it is just sort of like a natural trait, right? Like it's funny because I still remember my first sort of realization that I was a leader, and it was just because people would gather around me in
Yeah,
college
yeah.
and like defer to me. So, what do you do? Well, I guess, and like I didn't even know it was happening. I just sort of, I was like, oh, I guess this is the thing. So Well,
Yeah,
look at that.
I mean, they probably knew that you were like a good problem solver, right? You would
Yeah.
help the group of people solve the problem.
Yeah.
And so people automatically kind of drifted to you because they knew you would help them solve the problem. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
But again, it's like this whole idea, right? Like sometimes I feel like it's like a personality trait, if you will, of a leader. Um, so you get to work in highly regulated environments, and that's,
yeah.
I'm sure, fun and challenging at certain times. Are there different things that people need to sort of understand about working in those highly regulated environments? Like, and maybe if you want to talk a little bit more about your work with Southwest.
Yeah, I mean, again, not just Southwest, but every airline is regulated. I mean, we are answerable to the government for certain things, and again, for all great reasons, passenger safety and airline safety, that comes first. That's the first part of who we are. So all these are good reasons. And not all airlines are unionized, but Southwest Airlines is unionized as well. So when you do have a union that you work with, there's also other mandates and deadlines that come from just being unionized and having agreed on implementing something or doing something to the union. So again, in highly regulated environments, there's usually really hard deadlines on implementing things. There's lots of different industry groups that help you work with the government and help reason with them and help negotiate some of these deadlines to be something that most airlines can accomplish in a reasonable manner. And so we do that. We use all of those industry contacts to be able to break down the complex problem, explain the complexity of the problem, and then try to solve it. But again, the customers and our employees also come first. So it's really important to make sure you're not just meeting the deadline, you're not disrupting customer experience as you're meeting some sort of a government mandate deadline or a contractual deadline. The employee experience is important and the customer experience is important. So I just think you become a really strong leader because it's not just meeting a date. There is no compromise of either customer experience or employee experience, because when you either disrupt your customers or your employees, I mean, airlines these days with social media, like you get on the news. And again, the customer comes first, so you definitely don't want them to have a poor experience by any means. So making sure you're not just meeting the deadline, but meeting it with quality and having all of those strong tools to ensure the quality is really important in technology.
Yeah, you really don't have any room for error, you know?
I mean, not these days, right?
Mm.
Like you can see, like even the recent outage that happened a couple of days ago. I mean, airlines can get really quickly in the news. Yes, of course, other industries can get in the news too, but people do use airlines to travel from point A to point B, whether it's for a wedding or their vacation or for business travel.
Yeah.
And so if that gets disrupted, yeah, people are going to hear about it, and it's going to be on national news. So I do think it's really important to make sure quality is never compromised.
We'll be back to the episode in a second, but first, I'd like to acknowledge the team behind the channel, This.Labs. We're seeing 3x to 5x productivity improvements with our teams and clients using tools like Cursor, Claude Code, and GitHub Copilot. We help teams adopt these technologies and get max value out of them through strategic partnerships, trainings, and other software engineering services. Check us out at ai.this.co. Thanks, now back to the video.
Well, it makes me think a lot differently about the engineers that work at airlines and Southwest because you really have to be a high performing engineer. It sounds like to be able to do that. What does that look like to sort of build, strong, high performing teams in this type of environment? Is it different? Is it, what are some of the traits you look for or some of the strategies you use?
Yeah, some of the teams I lead, Tracy, are like required to fly, critical to the operations. Like I said, I support teams that support all the technology functions for my crew members at Southwest Airlines. So again, it's required to fly. And so it's really important, one, to hire folks that are willing to have that warrior spirit to help meet those timelines, those commitments, etc. But that's not the only skill. You want people to be technology savvy, to be able to do all of the complex technology transformation that we're looking for from them. But to me, an ideal team is a team that not just has really strong technical talent, but the domain knowledge is important. Like every industry, airline industry has some complex rules and complex even acronyms and lingo that someone that's not worked in an airline may not easily understand. So you kind of want to put the ideal team is a mix of people that have all the talent. An ideal team isn't all the engineers that have worked in the airline for a very large number of years. You do want strong technical talent that has moved across industries, but you also want the domain experts, the people that can work closely with the business. Sometimes we even have what we call test groups that include our crew members. And we do alpha and beta testing depending on the criticality of the capability that we're developing or the functionality that we're deploying. Sometimes the crew members actually get hands-on and give us that initial feedback in the alpha and beta test groups to be able to make a better product. The sooner we get feedback from them, the better it is when it's rolled out to 30,000 crew members in the front line.
That makes sense. And I have in my head this picture, and maybe other people too do too, in hearing you talk of, you have to make it work, right? You guys are there, you're making sure there's so many different things when it comes to, obviously, the technology related to some company like Southwest Airlines. But of course, there's all this innovation also in technology that's happening, especially with AI right now. And, you know, um, how do you balance sort of innovation with these regulated environments where there's just so many requirements to succeed and be high performing?
I mean, it's not easy, right? We have to make innovation a priority. In fact, me and my leadership team, we talk about how can we get better at making innovation a priority. But one way we are trying to drive that innovation in our team or within our team is for our crew domain, we have implemented what you call Scaled Agile. So business and technology work together, and we have done Scaled Agile transformation. As a part of the Scaled Agile, we plan our work in 10-week increments. But what we do as a part of the 10-week increments is we always have what we call the innovation sprint at the end of the 10 weeks. Again, you don't want innovation to always just be contained in the innovation sprint, but that's sort of our, in some ways, it's almost a compromise because we have all these deadlines to meet. You still want to set aside time for innovation. And when we say innovation, it doesn't mean they have to build a new product in the 2 weeks. That's asking too much of those teams. But they could even create tools. They could create utilities that just makes their daily life better in the innovation sprint or makes things better for our business users to be able to help them. So it can be anything that the team decides to do in that innovation sprint. But what we do is, now I will tell you, we're not always pure where all of the work gets completed in the first part of the iteration and the last 2 weeks are used purely for innovation. There are times where work will roll over into the innovation sprint. However, we do try with that concept of carving out that time and space for the team to think outside the box and develop something that'll either help them or it'll help us create new products and all of that. And that is one way we have learned to work around all of this in the kind of environment where we're definitely still accountable to all of our timelines and deadlines.
I love that. I remember recently we gave one of our engineers a week to just, okay, just do whatever you want on this project, to
Yeah.
make it better. And one of our engineering managers was saying that she's never seen him work so hard and so many hours in his life because, finally, right, you get to just do everything, fix everything you've wanted to fix. You sort of have all this freedom of creativity to do what you feel like is important. So
Yeah.
I really love the idea of the innovation sprints. And it's great that y'all give each other time too, right? It's um, I would say that it's almost even better because I think sometimes on other teams where, maybe it's like, oh, 20% of your week is spent on this, it's hard to sort of get in the flow, if you will. But when you're taking, a sprint and you're saying, hey, you have a week, a few weeks to do this, you have so much more opportunity to really actually get something done.
Yeah, and we're even talking about how to make it better. Should we create an innovation backlog where we get a backlog of ideas? I mean, again, you want the innovation sprint to be flexible enough
Mhm.
where you're not creating rigidity on what they pick up,
Yeah.
but a backlog of ideas could be a starting point if it's a new team and they don't exactly know what to pick up during the innovation sprint.
Yeah.
So we've even thought of, like, again, we're very careful that we don't want to introduce additional rigidity or too much discipline into the process. We want to
Yeah.
give them the freedom, but it could be a starting point if a team is running out of ideas on what they could do during the innovation sprint.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that too. I think a lot of engineers or people generally, right? It's like, okay, well, what do you want me to do?
yeah,
Where
yeah.
they want the direction, if you will.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned earlier in this podcast about this idea of, teams. So you were talking about having, um, you know, pilots testing, right? You were talking about mixing your teams too. So having folks who are maybe subject matter experts in airline specific, and then having sort of more, I don't know, like heavier technical subject matter experts. How do you sort of like embed that cross-functional learning into that, that group, right? It's very diverse in itself, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, the way you do that is, and again, like I said, we've implemented Scaled Agile. So some of these roles that I talk about on the team, they're going to be very Agile specific roles. So you do have a role in Scaled Agile called Epic Owner. So Epic Owner is the one that takes that initiative or Epic and they shepherd them through the life cycle, starting from the lean business case for that initiative. So you could technically hire an Epic owner with really strong project management skills. That has actually been, for instance, I support crew scheduling. That has actually been a crew scheduler in the past. So a really awesome crew scheduler could
That's
be an
really
Epic
cool.
owner, which really means they understand the business in and out. Collecting all of those metrics to build that lean business case is going to be a piece of cake for them because they kind of lived it on the scheduling floor. Some of these people that were on the business, they also make really good product owners on the team. So they could own the product, they could drive the future vision of the product and the roadmap for the product because they know the ins and out of using the product. Even if you're in the process of modernizing the system, they'll probably use the earlier version of the crew scheduling system. So that is one way we do that cross-functional blending on a variety of roles. I mean, even on roles such as like roles where you need to support a product, etc. Sometimes your business stakeholders that are closest to the product are probably much more knowledgeable than the technology people that are developing the products. So that is one of the ways we have cross-pollinated people Sometimes there are even leadership roles at Southwest Airlines in general that move between technology and the business and vice versa. Some of the strongest leaders on our business side, they used to be leaders in technology. They were all my peers before they became leaders on the business side. And vice versa. There are people from the business that have moved to technology because they just like the act of developing and creating those cool things so much more. So they moved into technology. So I do think it's really important for any large business, such as an airline or other industries, to be able to have that cross-pollination of talent. Because that's what creates a really good product, and that's what helps you create a really good product vision. It's not just having the same type of people with the same type of thinking.
I love it because I really, I know we've known each other for a while, and I've known what you do, but just, talking to you right now about how Southwest and you run your teams and sort of how you do the innovation and the sort of like cross-functional roles that happen, it makes me want to go interview all the other airlines and sort of see, right, like compare and contrast, and so I can make my own determination of like who's the most innovative airline.
I hope you learned that it is us at Southwest Airlines. I know I'm just being competitive, but I mean, I bet you there are similar concepts in
Yeah,
other, I mean, not just airlines, but other industries
yeah.
as
Oh,
well.
yeah, for sure. I mean,
Because I've met people that are currently in technology
yeah.
that didn't have like a computer science engineering
Mhm,
degree like me,
mhm,
and they're like really amazing leaders.
mhm.
And I met them through some of the networks you and I are part of, but they're like really smart, capable leaders, but they didn't start as an engineer like me. So I
Yeah.
do think that that cross pollination is really, really important for us to have effective leaders, regardless of industry.
Yes. Yes, I love that. And I mean, the stuff that you manage in particular, just sounds like so much fun, right? Because when you're talking about transformation within your organization, right? Yeah, you're probably having to deal with, if you're having to deal with crew members, for example, um, you're dealing with like a younger generation, a changing generation, right? So I think a lot of folks sort of, if like let's say you're running a SaaS company, right? Like your ICP is going to be pretty similar, right? In terms of, oh, I'm targeting a manager at X company with X amount of, but you have to deal with like social media and new people and up and coming, and it's sort of almost a mix between consumer and sort of internal, if you will. I don't know how to specifically describe it, but how do you deal with that? How does your team handle transformation in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like you pointed out, right? We're hiring new crew members, new pilots every day as we grow, as
Mhm.
we fly to new cities, etc. We will be hiring more talent. Again, what has changed is everybody wants everything. It doesn't matter, like if you're like my son, my oldest, he's a Gen Z, whether you're a Gen Z or you're one of the other generations. I think everybody wants everything on their smartphone these days. Nobody wants to sit in front of a computer to be able to do everything, even if it's work related. For instance, crew members, they have to bid for their schedules. Sometimes they trade their schedules if they didn't like it. The key fact is they want it to be available either on their tablet or their smartphone. So I think it's really important for us as we transform to develop things that are with a mobile first mindset and make sure we're using technology where it seamlessly renders on a laptop or a desktop, or if it's a tablet or if it's a tiny smartphone, it needs to render really well. So over time, anything new that we're developing, we have that mobile first mindset, and we use technology stack so that people, whether or not, someone may choose to use a computer because they're doing something really important, like bidding on their schedule or bidding on their vacation for the year. Or if they want to really just use their tablet, they can do that too. Or if they want to do it on a smartphone, they can do that too. So it's really important to make sure you have that mindset because you also have to remember, especially the crew members that I support, they're not sitting at a desk like many of us do for work. They're always on the go. When they're supporting the airline, they're transiting through so many different airports. They're in hotels, so they're on so many different types of networks, and most often the easiest device for them to pull up to do any of the things that they do with the company even is either their personal phone or their company issued tablet or device, not like a really big computer screen with multiple monitors. So you just have to keep that in mind as you're designing the new products for them.
Yeah, I love actually how simple it sounds, right? Because I was trying to make it a little bit complicated. I was like, well, how is it different? But you're just saying, look, mobile first. You know?
That's what it is. Any
Yeah,
new capability, it just
yeah,
doesn't make sense
yeah.
that you would put it on something that doesn't render really
I love
well.
that.
Even for testing, you kind of have to test across so many different multiple
Yeah.
popular browsers. And I'm probably not the only one that faces that, but
Mm,
you want to because just because it's mobile first doesn't mean they all use the same browser.
yeah.
They may all have their own favorite browsers, right? So you want to test something across all of those different browsers as well. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, cool. Priya, it was so great chatting with you. You're always a wealth of knowledge. For those of you all who don't know, Priya is actually in Dallas. And Priya, I feel like I see you at so many different places. Like you're just involved in the community generally. Are
Yeah,
you going
you
to?
too. I see you in Dallas all the time. Because I had a personal trip in August, you and I were not able to
I
connect, but I see
know.
you in Dallas all the time as well.
Yeah, it's so great. I mean, I think one thing I always say about the Dallas ecosystem is, I've never it's so it's every city has its own little flavor, right? But the thing I love about Dallas is there's so many folks in executive leadership who are out networking with each other, supporting each other. And that's definitely unique. That's unique than um a lot of places that I've been. I think in Austin, I have been more exposed to folks who are more sort of like technologists, right? Like, so high ICs, if you will.
Yeah.
And it seems like they gather a lot. But I love it. I mean, that is why I love Dallas. And it's just such a great community there.
I
Um,
would agree. I'm part of multiple different networks at Dallas, and I do think Dallas has a really rich and vibrant community. And again, there's that Texas culture of supporting each other, helping each other, and all of that. And you definitely see that in the community. Yeah.
yeah, amazing. Where can we find you if we want to learn more?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not huge on social media. So again, like I told you all, I'm an introvert. So this is like my first podcast ever. So Tracy, thanks for the
Amazing.
opportunity. So I'm definitely on LinkedIn. So I plan on linking this podcast from LinkedIn. So Priya Narayan at LinkedIn. And you can just search for Priya Narayan at Southwest Airlines. But I'm not very active on either Facebook or Instagram and all of that. I should probably do a lot more of that. Yeah.
Well, baby steps anyway. So, well, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the podcast. Definitely check out Priya and all the cool things that she's doing. Definitely check out Dallas too. It's such a great community to be a part of. And you can always find me on LinkedIn at Tracy S. Lee or on X at Lady Leet. So we'll see you all next time.